Mr. Tahi, could you do the roll call, sir?
The chair, members of RDC, this is roll call for Resource and Development Committee of the 24th Navajo Nation Council. Special meeting for Tuesday, September 20th, 2022 at 10 a.m. Roll call, Honorable Ricky Nez. Honorable Rick Nez is present. Honorable Thomas Walker Jr. Honorable Thomas Walker Jr. Honorable Key Allen Begay Jr. Honorable Key Allen Begay Jr. Honorable Herman M. Daniels.
Good morning, President.
Honorable Herman M. Daniels present. Honorable Mark A. Freeland.
Good morning, President.
Honorable Mark A. Freeland is present. Honorable Wilson C. Stewart Jr. Honorable Wilson C. Stewart Jr. is present. Honorable Thomas Walker Jr.
I'm present.
Honorable Thomas Walker Jr. is present. Honorable Key Allen Begay Jr. Chair, you have 5 members available, which is established as a quorum. Back to you, Chairman.
Thank you very much, Mr. Coffey, for doing the roll call. Kachaya Nas Manado Kuro on the agenda. We have the invocation. Jay Kuro Yaradi Nito sort of the beads. So let us start this and pray at this time. Nehitka Nehidigan God. So little yon tail and Higan lady. Archsujan, a person on Lonigi. Begin the Honora, those on that tailor. And the Nsa Bigedo, the Holy Bible. Nature shadings and all at the hotel, they throw on the best money. And the donation, then again master. At the hotel, they get a shines and give our kids some. But ego and can go. A stone hidden. What some she not cared, they hid a saint. Hidden no. Nature shines and all. Nature grow. Then snake of our creature on Sabashi. What some she? They had a neat ashi. Ni hoka and any cleaned over headaches and what ego in a way he could just take it. At the Aponites and Asanites can go. Saturday over to ego age kicker. Nihis doya tater. Nihis ananda nihizedo is nisa. Nihizedo gates of the zeniki are any his a den doya tego. A Yale ticket, which in a Yale ticket. I had a clash with that Gini, and Sabashi, a ears and Nash, and though we have to give up my needs and dig up a date. At the house of the she would get a case open in a need. I get the stress or she spoke society a lot illegal than needs and she's up. And the big hate or done a Hansi case. A Yordanit, Edanits and Sa. Or see tego is cut over a Yorn stero to the eye, is the Hunan Nash face or Noro Yoda as fast Asia, or not even Nayorn Stedanits and all at the Ammonits and give Jordan the ideal couple de Lana, Elani can't get again leaning. The Nation Koro Joe, a Joe Papalia, Yon, Neve Hans, the case or less. The ocean kick at the London hit Nitanenhanag, that he nanny oh, Sabasta Horsham, Sashin, those the hot cedar, Sashin, which and the Haina. Over that, Egon his better husband than dead. As he then snag or Hansi case go, as hearts of the Santa. Ne han, big had an it, oh, and his better husband. About senior in Harmons and Hidigan Lane Danny Teki. Santishidia and Nicronicus are Diego. Do we at echo the never done needs and a nizine or gay. Do Bahani Zada, Nehizad. Sede, Nehishadon, Hemasandon, Hizadon, Hema, Nehedan, Hemayas, and Hinestan. Be great, do Chuni either. That's the Tanya. Oh, the Rego, but that needs need. Sede, go ahead, tell the Christian. Hans Tawashid overtego Hans de Casey at the under a content. And his jig and I z. Ishiban de Craig in the nil and Sasaka. Then Strahus and Hibahi take Nahanans Etash Moran Zaga and Snito Hotsa and Kissing. Then Nachin Koroya Teho. Nas Chana eating on Passion and eating of the Kato de. Ended that head and snago, that can eat can go. Nas ye cotton needle de. A head had been Aniki Hotel in the bed, he could just slip. A creature in the bed, and the 18. Ended then Jolagon here, Nikehana or Tadon here, Nada honey cash, Cravagina or the kiss. A ke bahor jishi karakon. A switching kone ehos and Jonago Yado Tish. Neheka Cosendal. Nehe another has Tito and he that the cheese of Adinako. Nehe that the Yotasto. As our boat, then the corn John, Pesnado, or Stocker. Clevona, Ada, these beings to Clevo. Sometimes Nelgonil is and a husband. City in Jericho, a nego that had trust. A Angia that had trust in sunset. Nedas ancient that had trust in the lady nada and nego. Jill Tajon that had an lad, although John that had chinda. Such is conscious and necessity that she is that. I hear the needle lesson again, then again. And that 20 Benson, Zodoti, consort of Hishi 20, economic Hadan La. Nal close Hadan La. Roll it up a Latin heart, suddenly case or con, 1 $8. Nikidas cargo on his spare horse and then the cheat and spare horse and Nikis one no ashmore. I don't cause run to the neck hans, so machine hearts are legal. The never none tired and hit Ilia, Oxin, a condition shidel, and one day credo, one day at all sucker. Then it can take a debate, nation of the nego. Yet, Eroshina had Agi, Koro, Bay, his one no, Koro, that we need Arco Bay. They had a hotel to the never house of a cargo. I don't know that he didn't ask from Fabaji number. Inland Island delegate, President Nez, Vice President Liza, Chief Justice Joanne James, Speaker Damon, based on Hassan, Tarnas Nella, not Anidan, Lenny, the Bevan Kayapan I. They hope the never house of a cargo and then Nashi so arts was from. And the Asturio son is she's a other hanyard in the house. But I had your father, she told you that there's the heart of the shaction, heart of the shikay, yashidans, and the other hasa, the jada than me. Ashmore about arms and overspun. So she is the stick or what you are, but that is called. Ben Sickers over Jerry and let Oyate or she are 99 the dog cotton lead on this. In that yate on this still only trap that are tail on this. Nahas Chino Tajan, Nahas, they are correspondents on Yate over a house up. They get it lead on this old hand, night of Kahan, so she can't. The never none tired she that old days, dog on the never washing on sheets at open on the shields and old days. As and the shit and need old days, but it tired shit and need old days. Best one the wash more, I needs contest on the corner. Dear Benevi, the course and it, then you see a tail, not under the key. A share asked which baby, kitchen piggy, yet everything on the whole no on the head on hitching. Sat over that, but I had your bar, but I home the study, no day need. Best one thought of Argent, but of us, so much more. We hear the upper needs and a share asked switching. Once the share coron church of body need on the other nation. Jesus Christ. Amen. A share coron, Mr. Toddy, any announcements for us, sir?
Chair, members of RDC, my announcement is tomorrow we have our regular RDC meeting at 10 a.m. And on Thursday, you have your regular Navi meeting. On Friday, we have a leadership meeting with Navajo Nation Land Department and BIA regarding the land to trust. That will be on Zoom. Chair, members of RDC, that is my announcement. Back to you, Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Toddy. Okay. Nika Nando don't Hanan Nishko Ash Winson. Not so keen, Mr. Needs and Mr. Toddy and Hanan Nishigi. Mr. Moses, as I call Nika Nanworthy by Kate Winson. Honorable members of RDC, do you have any other announcements? We're having a special meeting today, so. Atenya, Akoshila, Kashena, Snana, Leslie, Koro, Na Kigone, recognizing guests and visiting officials. Kashena, Kigone, Oshi introductions, Opado, Nate Arts, Opado, Niche, Delahadi, Zito, and I changed settle days, but RDC. Vice Chair Walker.
Yes, Chairman, Ms. Dahl, committee members, that shouldn't happen. That have been other Handal, Shikito, our staff, other the meeting participants, each and every one. Thomas Walker, Adish leader. Though I represent coal mine, Cameron, Loop, Talani League, and city chapters out here in Western Agency. But Hidini from our part of the nation, from our end, also our communities, our chapters, our leaders, our people from this end. I don't mention now the big told is that Begi ya Twatsoni and Hodeco Nal ya Tedishkisni, without an ancient Koyat Echo, I don't so there's the and citizen that are been Hayins, been large in Yasalinko, the Shanko, she how Tsunaniki, so Yanabi, or the co. Yeah, also, yeah.
Thank you, Honorable Vice Chair Walker. Honorable Daniels.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I'm the Vice Chair. Kodo Suche. I don't know Kodo, my brothers, Kodo Delegate Freeland, Delegate Stewart, I don't say Delegate Key Elamike Jr. I don't know Kodo, his staff, so Kodo. I don't know Kodo here at the Hidosima. I don't Kodo says for half things Kodo, Dinos, Twagi Kodo. Kodo say, yeah, Kodo Herman Daniels Jr. A CG. I don't know. I don't see me there. I don't know. I don't know. Tohead Lindy that it does say. I don't have to go. It doesn't know what I could do. The benefit can he did me dollars. I don't not to spawn or jet ho. Sat ho those that we can Ota koto the house made on koto ado share koto the chair koto so the zone koto nakabe then lady benebi sin koto benage ne to the speech or $8 koto Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Daniels. Honorable Freeland.
Chairman and staff, good morning. Shalanta, colleagues, Ahiala, Shalanta, Chairman for that prayer. Oh yeah. Shija Mark Freeland, Shiado, Ado Flenigi Tutsoni, Naslego, Ado, Kiani, Bashis Chin, Sanjikin, the Che, Ado, not Bethany Edisonella. I'm up here at Herfano with our chapters in Eastern Agency. We're meeting this morning on the Colorado and BB9 updates with Stoddard Miller, as well as the Bureau of Reclamation, the BIA, and other stakeholders. And a very important meeting that we've started again, Shanta. So I'm representing RDC up here. I appreciate NTUA being up here as well this morning. But we have a lot of good discussion and look forward to all of the water coming through to this part of the Navajo Nation and into other parts of Eastern Agency. So good morning to one and all. Shanta. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Honorable Stewart.
Good morning, tonight, all from the family. I thought my daughter tonight, I thought that is about staff of that thing. Actually, she was since he's still junior and she put something age and all that. I just got she because she got you this she doesn't beat the point, it does she melon. And again, the point she not thought he had has to do this morning.
Ik zei hartelijk neerzien, one sanenste, or zekertje, was je zien, zijn hebben dat je chedo ook hier aan die dat je naar het ego de nenslido, de lezen one chapter dat is net ego is kwaliteit zessen aan die en hoofdelijke zo het oude jersey zessen aan die en gona niet het oude jersey zo. Hashtaga chapters Vanashin Shide Sada Khan Sasakani and the Naniza Dosh Kakis Tosakado Tish Kish Ahotego a Bishop a Ajabanashin Shana Aro Kehekui Koron Kitfonasonigi on Moscow Kashe Korosta Papadologist Mr. Tahi.
Good morning, chair members of RDC, those present, those online. My name is Rodney Tahi. I'm the Legislative Advisor for Resource and Development Committee. I'm Kiani and Senchikina, and I'm originally from Steamboat, Arizona. Back to you, Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Moses.
Point of one, Chair, when about the share, please put it in, I shot, such a long on anybody's chain. I see this and say, from one minute. To be here, first time here.
Thank you, Mr. Moses. We also have on the call with us our attorney, Ms. Mariana Kong.
Yad Ed Anafso. Yad Resources and Development Committee members, Danaflinigi Ado, Yad NTUA, Benat Anido staff, I thought Yad Ed Anafso Ado, Yad the Navajo staff members who work for the various departments who are here listening in on the call. Yad Ed Anafso. She Mariana Khan, the Shijane Done, and the Shinigi a tohiet leaning. Ani bashish chi ashche dashiche senjikina dashanala ado hehens hago so does in the hensi. And thank you very much as always. Beautiful way to start our meeting. I will be listening in on the call, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Khan. We also have from Speaker's Office on the call with us, Joaquin Yates.
Thank you, Chairman. Good morning, honorable members of RDC, other honorable members of the delegates. Thank you very much for joining us this morning. Welcome, NTUA. My name is Joaquin Yates. I'm from the Office of the Speaker, assigned to the Resources and Development Committee. Thank you all for joining us this morning. Have a great day.
Thank you, Mr. Yates. We also, please, mute your phones. We also have one of our colleagues on the call with us. Chair Honorable Amber Kennisbaugh Crotty. Shemayaja, Honorable Crotty. She must be having some technical difficulties here. Today we'll come back to her. She is also on the Budget and Finance Committee meeting. But welcome, Shemayaja, for being on the call with us. Office of the President, Vice President, Mr. Filfred.
Morning, Chair and members of the Resource Development Committee, staff. Although, as we spoke about, the degree of into the degree of hold on. Okay. Anyway, good morning. My name is David Spilford. I'm one of the executive staff under the office of the President and Vice President. The and the although the chief is active participating, but I participate put it in another although San Diego, over here.
Thank you, Ms. Clausen.
Good morning. I'm Terry Clash and I'm with the Office of the President, Vice President. I'm also Executive Staff Assistant. I look forward to today's meeting. Thank you very much for hosting this meeting here in TUA.
Thank you. We also, from General Land Development Department, Ms. Etty Anderson Avasta.
I'm Etty Anderson from the
Thank you. We do have NTUA staff, Mr. Rex Combs.
Good morning, everyone. This is Rex Kuntz and Deputy General Manager with NTUA. We have a number of individuals here. Now we'll just go down our list. Right next to me is Mr. Monroe Guido.
Good morning, Chair, and all the honorable delegates online here. Again, we really appreciate the time to talk to you today. And I especially like the prayer that you said, about the theme of respect, understanding, forgiveness, and then we're here for the Navajo people. So again, my name is Monroe Guido. Although Erickson Michael, NTUA on our streets, business development, so the telecommunications side.
Thank you. We'll start from over here.
Of Montana, Canada region. I'm originally from Ontario, Oregon, and I'm from NTUA.
This Ren Mitsu in Chef might be excuse me, Michelin. Okay, but she's team past it, that she not pay that she know. I'm an associate attorney with the NCUA. Yeah.
Morning, honorable delegates and members of the staff. My name is Holt Artery, and I work with NTUA as a project manager in the communications area.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining at NTUA headquarters. My name is Lucian Sarvi, and I am the Communication Systems Program Manager. Now, welcome and thank you.
Yatishnan Tai Chair of Greatness, though members of Noshinigi, Yate Binik Dini, though they thought it, I not Sangi, so that's not Sangi, so Tasi, Chikation Donnet, Shady, not what the net touchy in ship, Ado she was chin, Senachin the Shadow to the chin, the Shinella, Martin Ashley, yes, out of NTUA is an government liaison. Should have not the Shirko, Yate didn't do the social Tati and Kaho Jesus, so another is Abaho Jesus. Yate didn't do it. Thank you, Mr. Ashley. Although NTUA staff, thank you. We also have on the call with us Ms. Regina Martinez from NTUA.
Good morning, Chair.
Martinez.
Good morning, Chair. Thank you for recognizing me. My name is Regina Martinez. And I'd like to welcome the committee here and thank you for the honorary moment.
Thank you. We also have Rainey Nelson.
Good morning, Chair and members of the RDC committee. Kia Ani and Schlitt as Chitney A Chin, Cut Chitney A Che, Nanesh A Dashanella. My name is Rainey Nelson, and I'm the Associate Deputy General Manager here with NTUA. Thank you and welcome.
Thank you. Neil Broyles.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, honorable RDC members and guests. My name is Neil Broyles. I'm the Communication Systems Manager with NTUA. Thank you.
Thank you. Shelby Daisy.
Bene Shelby Daisy and Toda Chitney Nishla Toda Chitney Bushes Kian Ani Dashachela Kaidana Dashanella. Good morning, Chair and everyone on the RDC, honorable members of the RDC. My name is Shelby Daisy. I'm a remedial project manager with Navajo EPA. I'll be listening in on today's call. Thank you.
Thank you. Austin Bizalani. None. Sheila, we're done with introductions at this time. Honorable members of RDC, we're on number 3 of the agenda, reviewing and approving the agenda. Mr. Potty, could you read the agenda for the record, sir?
Chair, members of RDC, your agenda reads 2022, 10 a.m. Presiding, Honorable Ricky Nedge, Chairperson. Honorable Thomas Headquarters and via telecommunication. 1, call the meeting to order, roll call, invocation, announcements. 2, recognizing guests and visiting officials. 3, reviewing and approving the agenda. 4, reviewing and approving the journals. None. 5, receiving reports. A, report by the Navajo Tribal Utility Authority on the fund received from the Coronavirus Aid Relief and Economic Security Act, American Rescue Plan Act, and grants awarded to help build out cell towers and/or broadband services. B, report by Navajo Tribal Utility Authority on the cell tower and/or broadband built out on the Navajo Nation and the funds received from the Coronavirus Aid Relief and Economic Security Act, and the American Rescue Plan Act to help build out cell towers and or broadband services. Executive session due to confidential and proprietary information. 6, old business, none. 7, new business. The Resource and Development Committee directs the Department of Agriculture to hold a work session with grazing officials and farm and land boards no later than 30 days to discuss matters related to livestock owners' right-of-way and land clearance due to the ARPA funding allocation. 8, close the meeting announcements and adjournment. Chair, members of RDC, that is the proposed agenda read into the record. Back to you.
Thank you, Mr. Tahi. Honorable members of the Resources and Development Committee, let's establish a motion and a second.
Motion,
Motion.
Daniel, motion.
Motion by Honorable Stewart, second by Honorable Daniels. Any comments or questions, Nanda? Going twice. Going 3 times. We'll go ahead and vote on the agenda. Honorable Vice Chair Walker, how do you vote?
Chairman, I vote green.
Okay, thank you. Honorable Begay. Honorable Daniels.
Green.
Thank you. Honorable Freeland.
Green.
Thank you. Honorable Stewart. Honorable Stewart votes green. We have a vote of 4 in favor, 0 opposed. Chair not voting. Motion carries. We have an approved agenda before us. Number 4, reviewing and approving journals. There's none. Number 5, receiving reports. A, report by the Navajo Tribal Utility Authority on the funds received from the Coronavirus Aid, Relief and Economic Security, CARES Act, American Rescue Plan, ARPA Act, and grants awarded to help build out cell towers and or broadband services. Presenters will be Mr. Rex Kuntz, Rainey Nelson, William Murray, and other staff from NTUA. Korodi receiving reports Igishe NTUA Kadi Nijigi Enterprise in legal on Nishigi A Peso Bachapalia. Atlanji A CARES Act Kadi Nego. Na Kikuna A ARPA Kadi Nego A Peso. Bachapalia Kishi Korobe Hitnahan Dole Steve and Nachi Peso Bachapalia Ki broadband cell towers Kadi no ini Jigi. Leader, based the change in case with the needle, passenger, passing at Nigo, the Jahakishi, whether that needs 20 gain a bait and never nasty of a cargo, what egg of base of a chain, the Akishi, Koroye, and just had an. So at this time, Mr. Coates, you have the floor, sir. You have 20 minutes.
Thank you, Honorable Chairman and members of the RDC committee. Appreciate the invite here to explain a little bit about the history of where we're at with these towers. And I think the first thing that we want to make real clear right up front is that we do intend to build those 2 towers that raise all these issues. Because these are low mountain towers. The requirements of the grant require that we do have an active lease. I think there was a letter from Land Department allowing us to move forward on one of the towers, but the grants require a document. So we started that and then we had to stop for that reason. Along that way, a fee was suggested and added into that lease. That's where the controversy came from. So that's just the background. We do have a presentation that kind of goes through that, and we want to kind of reset a common ground among us. I think we all are here to serve the people, and we're trying to find a way to do that. And we'll explain a little bit about the concern with the $12,000 fee. So I'm going to turn over to our presenter, Mr. Monroe Keto, and he will go through the presentation, and then we'll stand for questions following that. Thank you.
Mr. Keto, Before we move forward here, I'd like to have Honorable Key Allen Begay Jr. Introduce yourself, sir. Honorable Begay. Press star 6 to unmute.
Chairman, can you hear me now?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. Chairman, I indicated yesterday I was going to be in and out of the session. We just finished up meeting with the Army Corps of Engineering over here at Mini Farm. So apologize for coming on late. But could I state that I need an strong team on the A dash I need to check other dash you need another
Kushila, thank you for joining the call with us today, Honorable Begay. Steve special meeting where we have motions and seconds, and more than likely we're going to have to go ahead and give NTUA more than 20 minutes to do the presentation, just to let you know ahead of time. So at this time, I'm going to give the floor over to Mr. Martin Ashley. You have the floor, sir.
Mr. Chairman, witness I want to welcome the RDC Resource and Development Committee on Oceanigi, Ganatani Oceanigi, where he came back in Nixon. Although where about wind is though, here you could open see so Washington has already asked for the never eat empty mission. And then none is urgent in the net, the clinic one business. Although never Washington, though, the project enterprise occasionally is Hadahati La. Age Hadahati La Edo, and keep the Nepa is Hadahati La. For on is so when none is in a like a keep the Nepa eating. A quaggy, a sheep in nutshell. Well, that day, Kidiki do not sort of car. As a jaggy, it is that the little, it is sure that the need so, yeah, where can you need those resource and development committee of Finnegy? We really appreciate having this gathering here, this meeting, this special meeting here at our facilities. And with that, I want to turn it over to Monroe Keto, and then we'll get into our presentation.
Mr. Ashley, ego, kro, low mountain first archer, the neck hair, tinny of it is a late AD shell towers, you get on Haznata, Bishop Champolia, NTUA, Bishop, I don't Addis, yes, Nelcopenina. Pachiki, Bana Nashiaki, do Hashkin, do Adna, egg is been Yakota, Ani, the Nakorova, Jiggy, Mr. Ashley, the Neban de Nashni, Nego, Ani, so Ani, but a court had that Oko, though Asna Coco, Hela, you have the Nedo Yana, Nashtash wings and a quaggy that is a given in a county job. Kitskodi Neto, Eskedit Eto, Hate AG, Oversight Need, Clinical Resources and Development Committee, Dashi Jagi, Bespans, Ambatsana Jagi, Aj Asatin, Board for Loan, the Dean Hit is again Hit Leshan, or sees at A La Eva, when Adon Zelish, Zelis, there. Right out that I'd say the show has stayed over the nest, though be a cocoa, the person rate, Nelly NTUA, though be a total benos, cocoa, 80 peso, the rate, which I put on nature of Pakiban, Sahake, don't have a clear gate, everything a colonic chodo, ask the benefit or a check, Mr. Monroe Keto, not or ask, I share you have to go in case wasn't that all day. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Chair. Really appreciate that. Again, my name is, today we'd like to present to you, present to you to kind of address what you talked about there. The very, or what's going on here with those towers out there and the money that's coming into NTUA in the form of the grants. So before we start, there's several things that you mentioned, and one of the things is you have to understand why the situation is the way it is. And the more we understand, the more we find common ground, the better we are to find solutions for this. So for our business, I'm trying to do that. I see.
Hello, we can't hear anything.
I sent a message to the advisor.
Go ahead.
So, you probably have mentioned that, we talked about how we need to talk about this in a good way, and that's what we're here to do. So with that, in the presentation, the first thing and Martin mentioned that, you mentioned that, Mr. Chair, is that, we're here for the people. It's not for NCUA, it's not for the government, it's not for all these agencies. We all work for the people, and that's what we want to focus on. And I'm glad you did mention that. So thank you very much. The next step in all this is, where the industry is going. So with that, we get the presentation back, so I just talk a little bit about that. So that one, give you an idea of some of the issues or some of the things you talked about. Just recording in progress. Recording in progress. Recording in progress.
We're up now.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Let me know.
Chair, we're back on. Chairman, we're back online. We're connected.
Thank you. We're back home now. Shannon, what do you say? I just what do you say? Anybody, please respond if you can.
Can hear you
Sheila. Thank you very much. Kache Korok and HUA, but it asked Mr. Monroe Keto. Open on the show, Senigi from HUA, he is the Business Development Group. I've been on the show. Mr. Keto, you have the floor, sir.
Well, thank you again, Mr. Chair. I really like that, and that's how we're doing this today to do. So finding commonality, and we're all here for the people. And the people, is what our goal is, to help them, in the better quality of life here in the Navajo Nation. So with that, you understand what's happening here in terms of feedback we're getting, if there's problems, if there's issues, or, what's the situation happening here? You gotta look at this in a bigger holistic manner. So what's really happening out in the industry is really what's the question here. So the points, going, and then, as I said, the telecom discussion on male status on Navajo, and then talk about the barriers, and then offense and sustainability, and then commitment there. So I'm going to go through these very quickly here, Chair, and kind of give you the foundation of where we're at without everything. And then, if there's some questions about the holistic aspect of it, we're willing to answer those questions. And then in the executive session, we want to go more into detail on each one of these areas there. So that's kind of our plan for today. And I will call on my members, the team members here. I don't know everything, in fact, I know very little. But my team members are experts these days, so I'll call on them. So what I do, please recognize them to talk about this areas, that'd be nice. Okay. So going to the first slide, members. So again, here we have a common interest. It's just now people there, it's not, all these other things are all the misunderstandings. It's the people that we need to look at and to help out there. We want to foster understand what each other and we want to understand what the RDC's vision is. We want to understand what the vision of the land department is. And then understand our vision as well too. How they go forward. How's the best way to do this? Not for us, but for the Navajo people. So this presentation will share, our plan and then the challenges associated with it. As you said, I think it's sometimes not what corner is this thing that would about telecommunication in general. And then let's work together to build connected communities together there. So next presentation, or next slide. So there's a couple of things happening here on the nation here. And in terms of carriers, in general, providers are selling off their businesses here on Navajo. They're all, not looking out, but they're planning on moving off of Navajo in one way or another. And the driving factor here is that this is a rural environment. We don't have a lot of customers out here. We have, 2 or 3 houses in certain areas, and it's not even less, but there is a need for telecommunications out there. How do we address this challenge of low density in communities versus getting infrastructure out there that's sustainable? That's really the issue. And then the other part of all this is taxes and community right away. And outside of Navajo, there's not a lot of these. So there's a lot of businesses that thrive on Navajo. Navajo too, again, going through all these barriers that we impose on ourselves. It may be in a good way, but in reality, they affect the service to the people.
the right-of-way issues, and then also, you know, right now we have national carriers out there, AT&T, T-Mobile, Verizon. They won't build here on that one, but they will come in if the infrastructure is there, you know. So what does that mean for the little guys like that two-way, sacred lands, sell one of those folks, you know? So it's just like, you have a mom and pop store here, and then all of a sudden Walmart comes in, right? In a way, it's good for the people, but it's bad for the local, you know, providers out there. So these are kind of the trends that are happening out there, and let's get out there. So we'll go through this here in the next couple of slides. Next slide. So business areas, you know, right now, at this time, we only build in high population areas. And that's true. You need, 2 or 3 towers in TV, in the city, central, you know, so that's because there's a lot of customers out there. Oh, okay. So there's not a lot of customers, there's a lot of customers in these areas, so carriers came to build in here because it's sustainable. Because it's sustainable. And kind of shy away from these rural areas. So really that's just the name of the game. And then they, you know, they build off of Navajo because they want to, there's less fees and taxes and right-of-way costs out there. So again, there's barriers that we impose on ourselves on Navajo that are not off of Navajo. So carriers in general, you know, will build off of Navajo. They have, you know, the ability to do so. In the last 10 years, you know, there has really not been a lot of towers being built out there. But the exception is NTUA. We've built some towers out there in the last 10 years. And these towers on Navajo are owned and operated by Navajo. NTUA is Navajo Enterprise. And then of course, you know, so these trends out there that are happening will just leave it as status quo, you know, so I want to, and if we understand this, then we can figure out ways of how to solve some of these issues. So the last 10 years, NTUA built about 43 towers out there. So we're trying to get out there to these rural areas. You know, we're going away from these population areas and going into these unserved and underserved areas. But, you know, there's a cost associated with it. Like I said, very few customers out there. So NTUA would like to continue doing this. We're doing it now. We have been doing it in the past. And in the past, you know, the RDC and those other groups have supported us in that way. The nation has supported us. But it's just recently changed a little bit. And that's kind of, we're kind of here to talk about those things and how we might even mitigate or resolve some of those issues there. So we like to continue building in rural areas. So these 3 major problems out there, you know, in building here on Navajo, CapEx, cost to construct towers. But now, you know, because of the pandemic and other the issues that gone on with that, the federal government has issued monies, and that's what you're talking about. The ARPA money, the funded CARES money, the SIA money, all those are funding that has come on to Navajo in order to build or earmark to build some of these towers in some of these communities. So that part is pretty much okay, and we can do that. So that's one part of it. The second part is kind of the issue here. So what we run into right now is that you can put in a lot of money, but then you have to take care of this stuff. You have to operate and maintain it, and there's a cost associated with that. And that cost is borne by the customers. And if you don't have enough customers, you cannot operate and maintain that infrastructure. You know, it's just, you know, it's just that simple. So in other words, you know, if I bought a vehicle, I can buy, somebody can give me a vehicle. You know, they can give me a beautiful as ever. But if I don't have the gas money, if I don't have the oil to maintain and operate it, or people put taxes on the road, so I can drive down the road with a toll on it, it's really useless to me, you know. So we need to find out or manage or mitigate operation costs so that we're able to use that truck out there. That's really the whole question out there right now. Not only for NTUA, but all carriers here on Navajo. They're facing these same issues here. You know, we'd love to get towers out to small areas, but we just can't afford to stay it out there. There is some point when the company has to say, "Oh, you know, this is going to drive me out of business. I can't do it." But then we have the community that says, "Hey, you know, we need this, we want this, there's issues there." Yes, we hear that, but we can't afford to maintain and operate, even though the government gives us money to do so. You know, that's the issue. And that's what we want to talk about today and see if we can come to some areas to move forward with the help of the Navajo Nation, specifically share with your group RDC, to mitigate some of these issues and to find paths forward. Next slide, please. All right, so talking a little bit more about that second part, right? The OpEx and sustainability portion. So it's really operation maintenance. O&M is really what it is. So again, you know, I can't survive, me personally, if I don't have food, water, shelter. Those are OpEx costs, you know. So I need to afford those things in order to survive. So OpEx cost is funded by income coming in by the people, by your customers. You know, that's where the money comes from. You know, and I run into this every day when I go out to some chapters and they say, we need to come up with some way to have income coming in, to do some of the things or to sustain what we have. And what products or services can we do or can we initiate that will do that? But there's really no customer base out there to sustain that. So in this case, it's the same thing. You know, we have money coming in, we have fees coming in, but the customer pays their bills coming in, but it's not enough to sustain what we have. So as OpEx costs increase, and OpEx costs can be, you know, gas, water, you know, you're paying your employees, you know, buildings, all these things. But the other OpEx cost is also the ones that we impose on ourselves, which is the Navajo Nation, which is right-of-way stuff, which is land acquisition stuff, which is lease fees. All these things are considered OpEx costs. So if you layer the basic, you know, consistent costs that a company faces, and then you put another layer of fees and lease fees on top of that, at some point the company is going to say, this is too heavy. I can't afford to maintain that tower. I can't afford to do this. And so what they have to do is they have to stop building, or they have to lower their services in order to stay afloat. No company wants to go out of business. You know, they want to stay afloat. And what's unique about NTUA is that all the money that we get goes back into the business. We don't have shareholders out there. We don't have that. The money doesn't go off on Navajo. It stays here on Navajo. All the infrastructure that we built stays on Navajo. You know, so if we increase that cost, there's some point where we can't go forward anymore. And what this means to ARPA dollars, NTUIA dollars, and to ARA dollars is that we are actually getting to that point now. So that we might not be able to build all those towers if the OpEx cost in the future is too much to sustain them. For example, if there's 20 towers that, you know, are in the queue, you know, and we put in additional OpEx costs on these towers, each one of these towers, we can't afford to maintain those 20 towers. In reality, what will happen is that only 10 of those towers are going to be built, just because to maintain them. And what that means is that some of these communities won't get those towers. You know, so that's really the question here. And that's what I want people to understand. Because it's not really, you know, hey, you know, you're not doing this, or, you know, this is what's happening, you're not listening. It's really an economics issue here. But we can do something about it. We can help. We can mitigate these things. So So going back to the last bullet there, each area has its own budget. NTUA has an own budget. Every year, and this is planned the prior year before. You guys gone through this. You guys have budget for 2023 that's actually planned in 2022. But what happens a lot of times, something happens that's not included in your budget, you know? So a lot of the stuff right now, things are happening so fast that the budgets have been set and they don't include additional operating costs or where do we get that operating cost? And that the customer base is consistent and we cannot charge you more or that there's not enough customers to support this. So that's really what's going on. Okay, next slide, please. So, but regardless, as Mr. Kuhn said, you know, we have funding that's earmarked in the refunding CARES Act. Again, I'm not really familiar with this, and I'll call on some folks that actually enlighten that. And NTIA, there are towers in there, and we are committed to building those towers. We are committed to building those towers. Even though it's going to cost us, even though we're probably not going to, you know, make any income off of those towers, we are still going to build it because they're in grants that have been earmarked already. We don't want to, you know, deviate from the wholeness of that grant so we get. But what we do need and what we do need to do to talk to you about and get your feedback on is how do we manage the operating costs for those towers going forward. And once we do that, you know, there's a whole nother batch of towers that are potential in the RFP, which the nation has not specifically allocated to any particular group yet. So, you know, there's some more towers out there to be built, but you gotta understand, even NTUA, if we have these operating costs, all companies have it, you know, might not be able to build some of those towers in the RFP if they can't sustain it going forward. We got the money. Again, if we got this huge truck, this wonderful truck, and we can't afford to pay for the gas, there's cats on the road, you know, we need to change oil, the tire goes out, you know, it's useless to us. It's pretty and it's wonderful, but in order to help us, it's not possible. Okay, go ahead. Next slide. Oh, so, you know, this is just kind of giving you the holistic view of what's happening out here with providers and with NTUA. In the executive session portion of it, we're going to actually give you some numbers. We're going to actually talk about certain situations that are unique to NTUA that, you know, we'd like to share with you and give you, you know, the reasons why these are happening. Like I said, specifically, in terms of, you know, health services, education services, and all these things. And the thing about it is that, you know, right now is a critical time for us to be talking to each other and finding common ground because we just went through a pandemic. One of the things that the pandemic has showed us is that we're not prepared on the telecommunications side. We are nowhere near that. So it's time right now for us to plan and work together so that we can build these things and sustain these things so that we can prepare for something else coming up in the future. And there will be something else coming up in the future, you know, but we should be working together to do those things. Share. So with that, I'll get this first portion of the presentation. And then if there's any questions out there, I'll have myself or the team answer these. And then we can go into that session, talk more specifically about some of these issues there. Thank you so much.
Anybody else from NTUA like to speak on this? Mr. Combs? 3 minutes.
Thank you again. We just want to appreciate the time given to us to kind of explain the situation. I think everybody is focused on trying to move forward. We just wanted to have a real clear understanding of where those dollars are going to fall and who actually gets burdened by them. We're trying to avoid burden to the customer. And you know, the timing is eventually we'll have development, we'll have growth. And we got big water lines coming, we got, you know, settlements happening. The infrastructure has grown. We're trying to establish, we're in the infancy of connectivity. Once we get those rolling and the nation has a chance to respond with development and growth, then you may be able to move into some additional fees and charges to sustain the nation's government as well. So we're just feel that the timing is not good to do this, and the timing will come at some point, provided the nation grows. And that's really all our goal. We want to grow. And again, just thank you for that, and we're open for questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Keto, Mr. Combs, and Mr. Ashley. Koro, Nikhil House of Nagi, Nikhil Nashudar, Nagi, Ida, Ashley Chin, sick case, Nigo. And the Joe, Ashigi, though, Oya that the Onigi, Asian Koro, Oya, base of Champaniaki, Kachin, and I'm not Senigi. Let's establish a motion and a second. Motion by Honorable Stewart, second by
Chair.
We need a second.
Daniel.
Daniel. Thank you, Honorable Daniels, for seconding the main motion. Pero, Kareya, Nantana Senigi, Koroshin, Ashteto, Panaidos, Tito, Leslida. Do you have any comments or questions? Nantai? Honorable Stewart.
Yes, and I will the consider. So actually, I run the Kodo Sakito, the Mr. Kuntz for the presentation as far as multiple hours and broadband services go. Although it is for the best interest of our community members to expand and to look at the common interest of how to improve the quality of life. There are a couple of areas, and I mentioned this before, ever since the NTUA has established internet services. And that's number one. Just down the road, less than 5 miles away, is 40 branch chapter. To this day, we still have problems with internet. Out of my 4 chapters, that's the only chapter that cannot and will not do Zoom through the whole pandemic. My other 3 chapters, Sawmill, Crystal, Red Lake, they can do Zoom with no problems at all. I can be at Twin Arrows, I can be Farmington, wherever, participate in the meeting. But for Defiance, the home community, the local governance community cannot get into doing that. And it's because of the internet services, just like as Mr. Kudo was talking, that's happened at the chapter. It affects the phone lines. They cannot get calls. I get calls. The leadership gets called. Where are the chapter staff? They're not answering their phone. That's one thing is, if why the NTUA go towards broadband
Navajo Tribal Utility Authority. If it can't be fixed, and this has been for what, 5-6 years now, for one community. 1 out of 110 that you, I don't know how many chapters you provide a service to, but how many other chapters are out there? And this is, to me, I asked the chapter, what is it? Is it the wiring? Is it the system? Is it, what is it? And they tell me it's NTUA. NTUAs are internet now. We've had Frontier before, and that was before I went in as a delegate. I was the chapter president there. There was no issues with Frontier at that time. Until I transitioned over, that's when they transitioned over due to a promotion that NTUA was doing. 1 year or 2 years, that should free service, and we would see what the charges are going to be after that. If I'm not mistaken, that was what was given to the chapter. But since then, even prior to that, we've had service connection issues, and those still have not been resolved. So my question goes back again, is if we're going to do this for the common interest and to improve the quality of life for the community members, and then why is the home chapter of NTUA having issues with their internet for 4 years, 6 years? That's one thing I question on behalf of my chapters and being a member of RDC. And like I said, I've stated that before, is why we continue to do that, provide that service when it wasn't even, prior to that, it was with Frontier, I believe is who they had. There was no issues then. Those are the only questions and concerns I have. And then are those, how many of those issues are happening at the other chapters as well? I said my other 3, they don't have issues like that. So that's why I'm asking. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Stewart. Mr. Combs, Mr. Keto, your response. If you would stand right here, that way they could hear you on there, we would appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Stewart and Chair. We understand that. I think the overall broad response here is that we need to build out more infrastructure. And there is a challenge trying to make this infrastructure sustainable. And a fee that's an annual fee goes on operational costs. That makes it more and more financially challenging to build out more and sustain it. As I mentioned earlier, we are in the infancy of broadband. We are expanding. We're trying to expand as quickly as we can afford to do that. Now, there are dollars out there for build grants and things like that to build things. But to sustain it, we have to be able to support it. I'll give you kind of a example. EPA years ago bought the nation 3 watering trucks to haul water for people. Those trucks are in disrepair. They have no CDL drivers, and the water department of the nation is saying there's no revenue generated. And they don't have any cost to budget to hire people to pay for fuel and to sustain those trucks. So it's great that those trucks were provided by a government entity, but the operating cost was not there, it wasn't supported. So we're kind of in that same challenge here. We do need to expand, we all agree to that, but we have to make it sustainable. It's not right to provide services to people, get them started on it, and then have be unable to sustain those services. And we will follow specifically, Honorable Stewart, with your chapter, and we'll look at what the solution is there. And we've had some engagements with you and your chapters. This is the first time that I've heard that that's a challenge, but me and my staff, we will make personal contact with your chapter. We'll follow up on that and see if we can get a solution. Thank you.
Mr. Keto, would you like to add anything? Yes, Chair, thank you so much. We've been working with Fort Tonight's chapter for a long time. There's a couple of initiatives that we did work with them on. But to your point, I didn't know that they were going to this issue. And I'll commit to working directly with them in order to solve this issue or any of those issues coming up. But for your understanding, to get from, the internet to a customer, there's quite a few steps in there. And any one of those steps that, stop the service from going through. It could be the service itself, it could be the infrastructure, or it could be people not understanding how to run the equipment or reset the equipment. So there's a lot of, education needs to happen on the user side of how to use this equipment. And what I run into, a lot of these testers have a turnaround. People are, coming and going. So when somebody really learns this stuff, all of a sudden, somebody else is doing it. But that's the second point. I'll commit to helping the chapter go forward with that. Thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Keto. Honorable members of RDC, any comments or questions? Honorable Key Allen Begay Jr. Navajo. Silla. Ashwadi, can anybody hear me on those that are on the call?
Honorable, this is Regina. I can hear you loud and clear.
Yeah.
Honorable, this is Regina. I can hear you loud and clear.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. Mr. Coates and Mr. Keto, there's 5 areas that was touched to me. And I believe our colleagues are having some technical difficulties. Number 1, why is the amount of annual fees to the Navajo Nation? Is that the only reason for not building broadband on the Navajo Nation? Number 2, NTUA continues to request for telecom funds and has been receiving funds for that purpose. Why is there a stall in this area? Number 3, NTUA needs to just focus on electricity development and transfer telecom funds to other telecom companies. Number 4, there are plenty of cell phone towers along Highway 160 in Kayenta and Shanto area. There are not many community members in that area, but cell towers are being built in those areas. Is it just to accommodate non-Navajo visitors who travels on the road in that region? Number 5, if NTUA, which they are, is receiving funding for the purpose of broadband to benefit the Navajo people, NTUA just needs to start building cell phone towers without any excuses. Mr. Coates, Mr. Keto, your response, gentlemen? Mr. Keto, corona tahanensi golashwa the neck at your fancy the aviva. The neck at your hands to on the shit side and non the shana. I don't think which the hands to get out coordinate and deeds or that. Yeah. Yeah, well, I make it, I just didn't, so, or did with that. And you hadn't seen it, how the, real and sing it, I'll try. So, in the, style, from neither, in the, side, the area, annual fees, yeah. Any bias, the sustainability, the either cut photo cut fees and then the car anonymous either on telecommunication infrastructure, either getting from project, the car anonymous either to other for that, for other based on the Kejata, require the getting or mix of what means that when the details of other which they have only one the other Washington there. If they have only one least the least, you have to have a lease for the property in order to build house. They put the other in the area. It basically not on the so other the doors. At least they are so they not like that. They put the non area cut for district. The crazy cut towers case in them. That's for those need more area. Organically, sustainability, so I don't copy that. For the we get hard numbers, got to be that. Prepare for share for other number one is answer each time. Other area, a late element, I guess, is request telecom funds. What is there in this area? Can you repeat the question, Gerson?
Which question?
Number two.
Number two. NTUA continues to request for telecom funds and has been receiving funds for that purpose, and yet there is no result of cell towers.
Oh, okay. So after see the presentation at 10 years ago, we built 43 towers. Based on that, they are the other 6 grants and any art in the state, though, Hadabiya. So, all data for other area, but based on the 90, the question another thing that if I thought about another and how sustainability, the whole town, put that. And we based on that, focus on utilities. NTUA is multi-utility company. Although treaty, no other points for that, no other something that they are business, no other internet understand. No other so I see made the car, the car, but don't ask basic treatment that a coin that they need to highlight that we never got those one of this and see and without getting like when the operates in the so I will very fast to take kids out there. Be the telecommunication again. 2000 that down they put this then basically I not done the complete folder. You told us very so I not recall the hospital. Would be the fiber, you could be the so I not state that. Hala be the could I how you go then I died
Auto ARA utilities being on home up with that's I think what. ARA and ARA constant. Other than the house kind of other. But the electricity, but the water, but the wood tech, other ARA. On the outside, the opportunity was there. That's all you get in the time. You know, get these sonnet, quota, yeah. It's not teaching the old, you can other, the whole northern. I think that's the question there. 1800. So, yeah, I need to see that your budget is what now again. Sustainability, yes, yeah, area, again, not those, they all happen, so it's not of the just another, put another tower, fix up, then not the area. I mean, put that. One of our major businesses on Navajo is tourism. Tourism, Navajo City, I mean, they have that see Europe, that was really and the common, I think they caught ya. Being they monitor valley, that they had to, they, you know, chanting this shade, what that, they had to, they, Harvard, Honda, oh, big, yeah. Tourism dollars that come on now, stay on now. Those tax offers. Get that business. And then to keep them coming to Navajo Nation, which helps make on that speak that more that they think that you know what that's I don't know that I think. Put there. Bond city keeps up with the okay, that the story is it's a happy character. Handwriting is terrible. Here's one. NTUA is receiving funding to benefit the Navajo people. So why can't they start building without excuse? Joe Fernandez, Behas Ani, but no. You think Behas Ani, but no. Washington, Behas Ani, but no. There's a George kidney, and the other Bernard, the other Victoria, in the area, other. That's when we start introducing. But any one of those, I don't want to say bureaucracy, but processes, quite a these processes and procedures, so out of the basically, other products, basically. Joy could base the Huna home, brings the other. So I see a need for the need to be class, this one, class, or others come and start the other non-profit. He just offered data. He just sits now, has the class over that. A home none of that. A door, without key. What Ayla share so honorable delegates or Ayla yeah. Yeah, Mr. Keto. I know Senegi, honorable members of RDC. Do you have any comments or questions?
on the first presentation here. So I would like to make a brief statement. Perhaps based on your presentation today. Here, Mr. Kino, Mr. Coates, Mr. Ashley, we have three attorneys sitting here, and we are very careful. I'm gonna say, Mr. Kino. They're keeping an eye on you, make sure you don't say anything that would hold you to a liability. So you have been behaving yourself in your response, so we appreciate that. First of all, what bothers us? What bothers us is, I'm sure you get the same questions and concerns from community members. It is our constituents as elected officials that tell us, how come we don't have a cell tower here? How come our children, our Navajo children who are going to school, they lack internet service, which means and equals to about their educational vitality is being cut off somewhere. Our children are denied a portion of their educational development because they do not have broadband services in their communities, where they come home from school and would like to do their homework, do their research. And this is an area of extreme concern. Extreme concern by Yashtigi Dashninigi Eyaha Nahaachana of Taco. When children are learning the trajectory, they're receiving educational instructions in the classroom, so they're gaining, versus a child who goes home and tries to some way find some internet service, and they have none. Where do they go to do their research? That is what I mean by an extreme concern for our children. It puts them back further versus the same contemporary, the children in their own age group, in their own grade level. These children are falling behind, and that is a concern. Your presentation into a common ground. Common ground, okay? We live on the same common ground within the four sacred mountains. We recognize your challenges as NTUA. We do. We also, as leaders, look to you when you say, when NTUA says we are a service provider. So nego, when you make that statement, then the people and leaders will question that statement and say, if you are a service provider, then why is there no cell towers in unserved and underserved communities? This is the area that our people back home need to hear from NTUA. They need to hear what NTUA means by we are, and yet we cannot put up a cell phone tower because of the amount of population in the area. So it goes back to sustainability. If we're on common ground here, we all have common interests. And that interest here is NTUA on the third. On the third point, common ground, NTUA has a vision, to provide affordable and sustainable broadband services to underserved and unserved communities. Now, this is the common ground that we stand on. With RDC's assistance, we can keep making this a reality. Okay? First, you're saying, Mr. Keto, Mr. Combs, Mr. Ashley, NTUA. Then the vision. The vision, it's going to become very clear to us today. What you envision for the Navajo people is what I just spoke on. Your vision to provide affordable, sustainable broadband services for our Navajo children to continue their education, regardless of what we call underserved communities. So the vision that we're working towards to make this a reality, right here, it says, you need the assistance of the Resources and Development Committee. My question to you as the chair of RDC now is, now that you wrote it down, what do you want from us other than what the tribal council approved as far as funding to build broadband and cell towers on the Great Navajo Nation? Mr. Keto, Mr. Kuntz, Mr. Ashley, your response, gentlemen.
Thank you, Chair. Very clearly communicated. And I agree with you on all those points. I think going back in time, I remember former resources division director Arvin Trujillo. Back then, he said, "We need three things to get anything done on Navajo. You need water, you need power, and you need land. And if we can figure out how to get through those hurdles, potential is there. In today's world, I think we've all learned and understand now that being connected is that fourth element in today's world. So in those old plans, that was not part of the vision, it now becomes part of the vision. I use the word infancy, it's still being understood and developed. At the time of Frontier serving Fort Defiance, I'm sure that we were trying to do Zoom meetings under Frontier's capacity. So that times changed, but we have to keep up with it in order to have our nation move forward. So I agree completely with that. We started out with, I think it was 28 towers, and we have over 120 now. We went after a grant to get 550 miles of fiber established. That was established with just a core backbone. Since then, we've expanded to over 1,000. Once the foundation was built, then it made it possible for the other providers to come in. I agree with you that there's a time for reconsideration. That maybe the foundation is there, maybe it's time to let those that are most capable and have the expertise to build on it, to build on it. And I think N2A is open to having those dialogues at this point. Mr. Keto related the fact that there are what are national carriers that have greater flexibility. They can spread their costs over hundreds of thousands of customers. The smaller providers don't necessarily have that ability. So we have to all agree and understand how we'll move forward with that. I think in general, we don't want to hurt the small Navajo business. How do we create a plan that includes them? So during the CARES Act, when NECA worked with us to build out things, and as we built that power, there was a need for house wiring. We tried to hire all the local electricians to come to work, small firms, big firms, individuals. We tried to hook them up, let them do the wiring. We're doing that again. NECA, they hired carpenters, they hired plumbers. They also had to hire electricians to do bathroom additions. Install. God's focus of what the potential is. That third element that Arthur Hill noted very well with the land, and that's where we all have a struggle, is the acquisition of land. That still is the one that takes the longest. It takes us a long time to get through that process. Land department is a challenge of trying to administer and manage that, but the process just takes a long time. And I know REC's work with land department and streamlining, one-stop shop concept, those types of things. Those are all great activities. And at some point we have to bring to realization of where they benefit us. So some of the slowness of getting things erected, installed underground, overhead, any of those things have to do with this right of the process. how can we speed up that land acquisition? I see on the agenda, there's going to be discussion with grazing. I think that's a very important dialogue. I'm very interested in the outcome of that dialogue. We have said openly, underground and overhead is not really effective at the grazing except during construction. Once something's underground and overhead, the grazing activity can continue. How can we work with grazers and with the grazing managers to come to an understanding that we can build under and over and still not affect the grazing? How do we create a partnership there? So that we can move forward with these very, that's the big line, rights of way, just getting land that is permission to occupy. I do know that when we do a lagoon system, it takes land away. That tower site takes a small amount of land. Yes, those will be fenced off, grazing. I'm not talking about that. That's good. That's a different strategy that has to be attacked and challenged. But for underground and overheads, there's some way we can come to a compromise with grazers that they can continue to graze. Perhaps a joint right of way. They have surface rights and we have the utility. But those are some things that we can work with. Resource development community, design acquisition, archaeological, biological, all those things are under your jurisdiction and your authority. And we need to work with you and those departments. How can we partner to focus on getting services to the people? That's what we ask for. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Again, this is Navajo. Come on, let me ask you to read the, your line, Dorgan's, Ken's. Okay, you know, yeah, that's a tremendous about this case. And there's another one, you don't know yourself, you don't know your capabilities, you don't know your thoughts, you don't know your words, you don't know where you're going. Let's me think, product about education that we that we can use. I know what I want, I know what I want, I'm here now that we got class. I'm here. Look at Bobon that sustainability, it's causing not the arcing novel. Oh, I'm here be fees that right on that. It added that we need to add the not idea. Out of the sustainability talking about it. Oh, other buyers is here. Has dollars, you has about simply has about getting. Oh, he the how he the it's okay, he Kenya in magic. It's okay, he the leads that will get in the what's he control it, I know it's what's his case. Oh, I can't think of that. God unusually opportunity request. How that took cut base or what cut the state I did natural. Cut other parts in the people that was after it. The time is now cut. So that's the same thing. They must quickly out. They need the hand, this. All hard is that you up in the now. So the other up in the young up in the eight guys question so right in that out. Eight guys up there now. Chair, my friend. Mr. Keto. Yo, then starting there on Mossan and Keto. Issue again, what's on the nation Sakesko, Haishi because 18 So, I don't think Resources Development Committee. Last mine, I just kid. Before we take a break here for lunch. Hakoshila, we're gonna take a 1 hour break here. We'll be back at 1 o'clock. Where I'll send you a picture of what ETUA has got for us. You can put a smile on your face when you see it. So at this time, let us bless the food. These out so that these. God. Makatin ahon zate. Hios cotton the han so she nan ten bay is that he honas cotton then. As a leg cotton there could oil and the key nas nahol token lead of days. That a conch young harsh baby like ishin of a day chateau. Yat eho coron hits east how for daily or baby or theatre vein hits the bendiga. A here on change our body and the nation Jesus Christ. Amen. We're going to take a 1 hour recess. Well, a little over an hour. It's now 11:56. We'll come back at 1 o'clock p.m. and we'll go into executive session for the next report by NTUA, which will be very confidential and sensitive information that we will receive in executive session. We'll come back at 1 o'clock at this time. We'll go ahead and recess. Thank you.